Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really crucial journey into something that touches so many lives.
Hmm.
Yet it's often deeply misunderstood. We're talking about the complex world of obesity,
Yep.
the myths surrounding it, and the rapidly evolving landscape of weight loss.
Yeah.
Our stack of sources, including this really insightful breakdown called Obesity, Myths Debunked, and Weight Loss Mania, it gives us a clear mission today
Okay.
to cut through the noise, challenge those, common assumptions, and hopefully equip you with the knowledge to make truly informed decisions about health and well-being.
It's such a vital discussion. It really is. This whole subject.
Mm,
It's so pervasive and often perceived quite sensitively in society.
definitely.
So it demands a clear-headed, evidence-based approach. Our goal with this deep dive isn't just like presenting facts.
Right.
It's about providing clarity, moving beyond the sort of superficial ideas to explore the underlying science
Yeah.
and the modern approaches that are in our source material.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this first big one. A myth that has, gosh, for far too long, really anchored how society talks about weight.
Which one's that?
The idea that obesity is simply a matter of willpower,
Mhm.
self-control. It sounds kind of intuitive, doesn't it? If you just try harder.
But that's precisely where our understanding needs a fundamental shift.
Okay.
What's fascinating here is how unequivocally our source states that obesity is a chronic disease. It's not a personal failing.
Not a character flaw.
Exactly. Not a lack of moral fortitude.
Yeah.
It emphasizes its multifactorial nature, genetics, your environment, certain medications, sleep patterns, even stress.
Mm-hmm.
They all play significant, sometimes overwhelming roles.
Mm.
It's explicitly stated it's not simply about eating less and moving more.
Mm.
Recognizing that just redefines everything, really. How we approach treatment, support.
That's a huge distinction. It totally reframes how we might think about, personal responsibility versus these incredibly complex biological and environmental things.
Mm.
And building on that, another widely held belief, it often goes hand in hand with the willpower myth,
Yeah.
is that people with obesity are just inherently less active, just lazy, basically.
Right, another one our sources tackle head on, and it really challenges that common picture.
How so?
Well, the material highlights that many people living with obesity are actually just as active as those without it. The critical insight here is that complex physiological factors are often at play.
Making it harder for some.
Much, much harder. We're talking differences in metabolism, how hormones regulate hunger and feeling full,
Hmm.
even how certain medications can completely alter the body's energy balance. It's not straightforward.
Okay, this next one. I admit for years I kind of just accepted BMI as the gold standard.
A lot of people do.
But what the source unpacks here is, well, it's truly eye-opening. Here's where it gets really interesting for a lot of listeners, I think. The idea that BMI, body mass index, is the best measure of health.
You've hit on a big one there.
Yeah.
While BMI can serve as a, let's say, a rough screening tool.
Like a quick snapshot.
Exactly. A quick snapshot. But our source clarifies it just doesn't account for crucial individual factors.
Mm-hmm.
Things like muscle mass, bone density, overall body composition.
Things that matter for health.
Absolutely. It notes that many experts now really advocate for a more holistic approach to assessing health, one that looks beyond that simple height-to-weight ratio.
To consider what?
Things like metabolic health markers, where body fat is distributed, which honestly makes a lot more sense given how incredibly diverse human bodies are.
It really does. So if our understanding of individual bodies is this complex, then it naturally challenges some of the most basic ideas we've held about diet itself.
Mm-hmm.
Take, for instance, the myth that all calories are created equal. You hear that all the time, really.
Constantly.
As if a calorie from, I don't know, a donut is the same as a calorie from broccoli.
Yeah, and this raises a really important question about how we actually think about food's impact. The source is very clear. The source of those calories truly matters.
So protein, fats, carbs.
Right? The macronutrients. They're all processed differently, quite
Yeah.
distinctly by the body. And this directly affects everything. The hunger signals we get, our
Huh.
metabolic rate, even the hormones that regulate fat storage.
Wow.
So yeah, calorie isn't just a calorie. Where it comes from dictates a lot about its effect.
Okay. And finally, to really tie this first segment together, there's the myth that obesity isn't actually a disease at all.
Despite the clear health links.
Yeah, it's often just dismissed as a lifestyle choice,
Mhm.
Mm.
But what the sources make crystal clear here is this. Major health organizations, globally, now officially recognize obesity as a chronic disease.
That's significant.
It's not just semantics, it's a critical classification.
Yeah.
It recognizes the complex pathology, its direct link to increased risk for serious conditions, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, even certain cancers.
So it needs proper attention.
It means it demands medical attention, appropriate treatment, just like any other chronic condition.
All right, so we've busted some pretty ingrained myths about obesity itself, which begs the question, how are these newer understandings actually reshaping the solutions we're seeing, especially in what feels like, well, the source calls it weight loss mania right now.
Yeah, that's a good term for it.
Our sources describe a real boom in personalized nutrition and AI-driven fitness for 2025. It sounds like we're moving beyond generic diet plans.
We really are.
So something truly bespoke, using genetic data, lifestyle data.
It's fascinating, honestly, and it's where the science is getting really exciting. AI is moving way beyond just, tracking calories.
Right.
The source highlights how these tools are evolving to truly predict and adapt to an individual's unique metabolic responses.
Oh.
Systems suggesting optimal meal timings based on your specific genetic markers.
Wow.
Or platforms using real-time data from, say, continuous glucose monitors and activity trackers to give you hyper-personalized feedback. It's light years beyond generic plans.
Truly tailored for effectiveness.
Right.
And maybe sticking with it longer.
And sustainability, exactly.
Yeah. That sounds like a potential game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now, this raises an important question when we talk about some of the newer medical interventions, the ones dominating headlines.
The medications.
We really need to tackle the myths and realities around weight loss meds, especially those popular GLP-1 agonists. The common misconception, fueled by the hype.
Is if they're a magic fix.
Yeah, a magic pill.
Right. We're talking about drugs like Wegovy, Zepbound.
Mm-hmm.
They're GLP-1 agonists.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they work by mimicking a natural gut hormone.
Okay.
This helps reduce appetite, slows digestion a bit, and improves how your body handles sugar. But, and this is crucial, the source is very clear, they are powerful tools.
Tools, not cures.
Exactly. Tools that work best when combined with healthy lifestyle habits.
Mm-hmm.
Diet, exercise, the works. They're absolutely not a standalone solution.
And not for everyone.
Definitely not suitable for everyone, and critically, they require a doctor's prescription and ongoing medical supervision. You can't just get them over the counter.
Right. So the allure of that magic pill is strong, but the sources really emphasize they aren't standalone. What about the idea that, okay, you use them, reach your goal weight, and then you can just stop?
Another vital point the source addresses. The reality is, stopping these medications often leads to regaining the weight.
Because the underlying condition is still there.
That's precisely. Because obesity is a chronic disease, much like high blood pressure or diabetes, long-term management is usually necessary. It's about managing a condition, not achieving some temporary state and being cured.
That makes sense. And then there's this perception, it feels quite judgmental sometimes, that using medication for weight loss is somehow cheating.
Yeah, that's a really loaded one, isn't it?
It implies a lack of effort or, like you said earlier, a moral failing.
Exactly. But our source strongly reinforces the perspective that since obesity is a recognized disease, medical treatment is a valid, evidence-based approach.
It's not a shortcut.
Not a shortcut. It's a form of treatment. No different, really, than someone with hypertension taking medication to manage their condition. It's about using all the available proven tools to support health.
That's a really helpful framing. Okay, so beyond medications, there's always the enduring allure of quick fixes, especially supplements. There are so many out there.
The dizzying array, yeah.
Our sources discuss how most weight loss supplements offer, well, pretty modest results, if any at all.
If any.
It underscores that the best results for anyone looking to manage their weight consistently come from combining healthy, sustainable eating, regular physical activity, and just a holistic approach to habits.
The fundamentals.
Yeah, and it gives a very clear caution. Don't replace a balanced diet or, crucially, medical advice with supplements.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
So if we connect all these different threads, the myths, the trends, the realities, our sources point to some clear evidence-based strategies that actually work for weight management.
Moving past the hype.
Moving past the myths and the fleeting quick fixes. This means a focus on balanced, sustainable eating patterns, not extreme diets, not skipping meals constantly.
So no more crash diets, which is honestly good news for mental health too, and frankly, our taste buds.
Absolutely. The source really reinforces that sustainability is the key, not just rapid fixes that leave you feeling deprived and likely to rebound.
Okay.
It also emphasizes regular physical activity, but importantly, tailoring it to your abilities and preferences.
Finding what you actually like and can stick with,
Exactly. Finding what works for you and what you can genuinely maintain long term. And then there are two often overlooked but crucial factors:
which are,
adequate sleep and effective stress management.
the lifestyle stuff.
Yeah, but they're directly linked to our hormonal balance and weight regulation. It's something many people don't fully connect.
That makes so much sense, linking our overall well-being to our physical health. And finally, the sources highlight the critical role of medical support when it's needed.
Right. Which could include those medications we talked about, or even bariatric surgery in some cases.
But always under professional guidance.
Always, always under professional guidance.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? I think it powerfully reinforces that the path to a healthy weight is genuinely different for everyone. There just isn't a single one-size-fits-all solution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really strong encouragement to be, well, deeply wary of those quick fixes and miracle cures promising the impossible.
Yes, right.
So I guess the core takeaway from this whole deep dive is pretty clear. Obesity is a complex, chronic disease. It's not a personal failing or a character flaw.
That's the main message.
It encourages all of us to focus on evidence-based strategies, to be patient with ourselves, and, maybe most importantly, to seek professional advice that's tailored specifically to your unique health journey.
Absolutely. And, this whole deep dive into obesity and weight management, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Well, how might understanding this complex interplay genetics, environment, psychology, how might that reshape our entire societal conversation around health, body image, even personal responsibility?
That's a big question.
Yeah, and what might truly change if we, as a society, collectively viewed obesity less as a choice and more as a chronic condition, similar to other diseases when we think about treatment and support? How would things look different?
Those are really powerful questions to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope it helps you continue your own learning journey with maybe a bit more clarity and confidence.